"Ron, darling," said my fiancée Sue at breakfast, "I'm going to have to stay late tonight." "Is something wrong?" I asked. "Something work-related?" "No." She looked a little embarrassed, but I couldn't quite figure out what was wrong yet. "The thing is, Chuck, his girlfriend left him." "Uh, Chuck? Your ex? So?" "Uh, well, he just called me yesterday and he's really upset and he needs support." "I'm sorry, Sue, I don't get it. Your ex who dumped you is upset because the woman he dumped you for dumped him, and you want to be supportive?" "Well, yes." Her cheeks turned pink. She obviously knew she was saying the wrong thing, but nevertheless she continued her speech. "It doesn't mean anything to our relationship. It's just a friendly support." "Sue!" I couldn't help but exclaim. "This is totally wrong. Remember, he left you. You weren't just upset. You were suffering, depressed. I was the one who saved you from it." "I'm worried now because he's suffering," she frowned. "I feel responsible." We didn't have much time to talk. The timing was very bad, and I realized afterwards that she had deliberately not discussed the problem that evening, simply because she knew the truth of her position. She knew what I hadn't realized, that I was a backup, a quiet cove where I could wait out the storm. And that's how our conversation ended this morning. "You don't have to do anything for him. You're in a new relationship with me, and he's in the past, and he left you for someone else. You want me to feel guilty about his condition? I didn't expect you to be so cruel. I'll go to him anyway, and don't you dare stop me. And you're just jealous. You just don't have confidence in yourself as a man." She didn't come back tonight, and the night before, and the next morning. Her phone wasn't answering. It wasn't turned off. I was just blacklisted. It made sense. I guess I should have been glad we didn't get married, but that's the way you think about it after a long time. And the moment it happens, realizing that you've been tricked for a year, that you've been used. "I'm staying with him. We realized that we both made a mistake," she said that evening, showing up at my house without greeting me or thinking to justify or apologize. "And me? I'm sorry," she said almost indifferently. "So all this time I've been the backup? He's plan A, I'm plan B? Don't be silly, it was a mistake. I really thought it was over between us and I was being sincere with you." "Sue," I grinned bitterly. "What if I told you I was depressed? You'd dump him and come back to me, right?" She only twitched her shoulder in response and began hastily packing her things. Not all of it, of course. My apartment had managed to fill up with a lot of stuff in a year. For a few days, I was in a black depression. I changed the locks the next day. It was unbearable to think about the fact that when I was at work, she'd come with Chuck to get her stuff. They'd walk through my house, going through things, and who knows, maybe the guy would even want to mark territory by screwing my fiancé on my bed. They probably came over and couldn't get into the apartment, because Sue texted me that they were coming by to pick up stuff on Saturday. Characteristically, after taking me off the blacklist to text me, she immediately put me back on it. A co-worker with whom I have a more or less buddy relationship and with whom I can chat about non-work stuff. When I told him about the breakup between me and Sue, after thinking about it, said, "You know, when they come to get your stuff, you might feel quite bad. It's kind of like their honeymoon, you know? Even if they don't say anything, like they're not going to make fun of you or anything, you're going to feel like they're laughing at you. Do you want me to come by and support you? Or I could just fill in for you. It's no problem for me. I just don't know what I can give them and what I can't." I thanked him, and at that moment I looked at my jacket on the back of the chair, which this week was working on the effect of my presence in the office more tightly than ever. I was often uncomfortable to be in the office, and even more so to work. I wanted to get drunk, and I often ran off somewhere not to be seen, not to socialize with anyone. When they arrived in a rented van, I put a carefree expression on my face. At least I tried to. But I couldn't escape their snide smiles and glances, and that added to my anxiety. I pulled Sue's things out of drawers and closets, and I wanted to cry. Suddenly, it was as if a spring had burst inside me. I suddenly remembered school, remembered the bullying I'd been subjected to at one point, how I'd had to confront almost the whole class. No, it hadn't come to big fights, but they'd tried to boycott me then, and I wouldn't have been able to do anything against everyone if I'd behaved the way outcasts usually did. I just boycotted back then. I ignored the ice wall. I came in the morning and greeted everyone cheerfully without waiting for a response. I didn't ask for help or questions. I acted like nothing happened, kept a smile. I even enjoyed it when I passed one of my enemies and made remarks like, "Oh, Frank, that's a cool badge. I should get something like that for myself." And without waiting for a response, I walked away, leaving the jerk standing there with a puzzled look on his face. It was like a boycott, but it was like some kind of conversation was going on. I had to fight only once, when one of my classmates tried to take away my pen before the lesson, but after that there were no more attempts of physical influence. There was only a wall of invisible ice. They held out for a month or so, and then I had a lot of abuse when I was already choosing who to lift the boycott and who to ignore. I guess that's the advantage of being an introvert. Independence from society. Well, not total, of course, but partial. It worked for me back then, and now I'm wearing a mask, too. "Why are you guys in such a hurry?" I said, smiling almost naturally. "I was given a bottle of excellent wine, but I can't drink it alone, and it's a bit boring to drink alone." They looked at each other in surprise. Sue shrugged, and the ex, who I knew liked to drink, nodded. I laughed, almost heartily, and took out a bottle and glasses. "Cheers!" I raised my glass to them, I said. "It's really nice when people can keep their affection, their love, for so long. I envy you a little, really. It's great that you're not jealous of each other at all." I winked at Exu. Not everyone can eat pussy, knowing that there was someone else's sperm in it recently. No, if you don't know, if the girls slept together secretly, then there's no worries. But to know for sure that a few hours ago something was poured in there, and even after rinsing it out, there could still be tailed live ones. He winked at the guy again. "What are you talking about?" Sue exclaimed. "I'm sorry. I'll always say something tactless." I mumbled embarrassedly and added, addressing to the ex, "Forget it. Forget it." Sue set down her glass and said angrily to Chuck, "Let's go." "Sue, let us finish a little," I said, smiling. "I said something rude. I'm sorry, we're adults. Wait outside. He'll catch up with you in a minute." And without asking, I refilled Chuck's wine. I guessed right. Chuck couldn't leave his glass unfinished. Sue gave us an angry look and walked out, and I whispered conspiratorially to Chuck, "I recommend in the ass her." I dreamily rolled my eyes. Can refuse, but if a little forced, then afterwards only satisfied is. "So," I chuckled, "we both understand her nature, don't we? We can make a three-way sometime. I didn't dare to start persuading her, but you can do it." X got dark and looked at me mean. He put the empty glass down and walked out. I breathed a sigh of relief. The show's over. Believe it or not, it doesn't matter. The main thing is that I made them stop laughing at me, and if I manage to ruin their evening and plant doubts in the head of the ex, then I've already taken a little revenge. And let Sue see that I wasn't really hurting. Sue called the next day and hysterically demanded to tell Axe that I had lied about the anal. I immediately guessed that she had put me on speakerphone just for the ex, so I continued the act. "Sue, come on, what's the big deal? Is it retarded? You liked it, didn't you?" "You bastard, you never had me in your ass," she screamed. "Sue, don't get hysterical. If you need to, I'll confirm whatever you want. Put him on the phone now. Is he around? Let me talk to him. I promise I'll tell him we've only had missionary sex twice a year." "You bitch. I hate you." She dropped the call. "And I still love you," I replied to the turned-off smartphone without playing. A day later, she came in, starting to argue from the doorstep. I let her in. She again demanded a rebuttal for the ex, and I played again, suspecting that she was recording the conversation. And then the ex showed up, and it was wonderful. "Yours is here," I told her. "Should I open it? He's not too jealous, is he?" "Yeah, we already found out." "Shut up," she mumbled. "I'll wait in the bedroom. I don't want to explain." I opened the door, zipping up my fly where Axe could see it. "Oh, Chuck!" I exclaimed excitedly. "Good to see you." And I held out my hand in an exaggeratedly happy and therefore fake way, but immediately pulled it away. "I'm sorry. It's dirty. I'll wipe it off." And as if checking my own words, I quickly brought my palm to my nose, sniffed, nodded. "Yeah, I'll be right there." I grabbed the pack of wet wipes that was always on the nightstand by the door and wiped it off defiantly. "Can I get you something?" "It's about Sue," Chuck began glumly. "What makes you think I have her?" I asked, glancing quickly at the bedroom door. "I don't know where she could be, especially since she loves you." Axe stared intently into my eyes. "I didn't think I said I was looking for her at your place." Are you alone? Look, why don't we go outside and have a chat? I answered the question with a question and looked back at the bedroom door again. Wait for me. I'll come out. Yeah, he said, just checking something. And pushing me away, which I didn't resist at all, he stepped to the bedroom door and swung it open. It worked great. Sue had probably been squatting by the door, listening to our conversation, and when it opened, she lost her balance and fell into the living room. "It's not what you think," I exclaimed, though no one had asked me. "We didn't do anything like that." X froze, shifting his gaze from me to Sue and back again, and I rambled on as if X was saying something. "Chuck, don't worry. It's no reason to be jealous. Just because a guy and a girl end up in the bedroom doesn't mean anything. And she loves you. Get a grip. We haven't had anything since she and I decided she was going to be with you. Almost nothing." "Nothing's happened. I just came by to talk," Sue whispered. "We couldn't have done anything in an hour," I added. "You know she likes longer, and so do I." "Shut up, both of you. I need to be alone." He turned and ran out of the door. Sue looked at me confused and didn't seem to know what to do. "It's best not to touch him now," I said. "Wait a couple hours at least. He needs to cool down." "That was stupid. Give me that." I took the phone from her hand and pressed the button, turning it off. "So you don't say anything to each other in the heat of the moment. In fact, I wish the ex couldn't contact her and would have thought anything but what it was." "I unwittingly hurt you, I'm sorry." He smiled. "Have some tea, come to your senses, and then I'll take you to him myself. And I promise that I'll explain everything, apologize, say that I had a breakdown, that it was hysteria. You'll see, he'll understand everything." "Why are you doing this?" Sue exclaimed angrily. "Is this really how you hope to get me back? If it weren't for your behavior, we could still be friends. I don't hold a grudge. No, you didn't. And now, you're an asshole, Ron. I kept apologizing in humiliation, promising to make it up to you, and in my heart, I reveled in revenge. I wasn't the only one who would suffer." Sue gradually calmed down, and we even had tea, me talking about something, basically talking through my teeth, secretly glad that she'd forgotten her phone was off, which meant that if Chuck tried to call her, he'd have a good reason to be jealous. I guessed right. About 40 minutes later, Chuck returned. Sue had time to tell me, "Don't you ever say anything else like that." "I promised," I said, and I kept my promise. I just put the torn condom wrapper on the nightstand by the door, so Chuck wouldn't miss it, and he did. When I opened the door, he glanced at the gold square, his face contorted, gave me an angry look, turned around, and stormed out. "What?" Sue jumped up. "What did you say to him?" "Nothing, I swear," I replied. "I'll take you to him now, and I'll do as I promised." I did take her to Chuck's house, and I walked her to the door of his apartment, though she refused. But I behaved like a gentleman carrying 2 bags of small things. I tried to stay to Sue's left, so she wouldn't look at the left side of my face. But when Chuck opened it, I purposely turned so that he would notice the lipstick mark on my neck. No, any woman would have realized that this lipstick mark was just a lipstick mark, a stroke, not a kiss mark. But Chuck's just a man. Where would he know? Anyway, he caught the message and read it exactly the way I wanted it to be read. I got home, and for the first time my mood was, if not great, then uplifted. I suddenly realized that I no longer wanted Sue back. It was as if the whole spectacle had ripped her from my heart. 3 days later in the evening, I opened the door to the doorbell. Sue was standing behind it, and she was clearly upset about something. "May I?" I poured her a gin, opened a can of beer. "We broke up," she said. "He keeps accusing me of sleeping with you these days. You set that up on purpose, didn't you? I tried to explain to him it was your revenge, wasn't it? If you don't want to tell him, don't tell him. I already know. We've said so many things. You know, it's actually good that you're doing this. I've really forgotten what he was like." And then when we started fighting, I remembered. It was a good lesson, and I realized I didn't need him. I needed you. I realized that this year has been the best year of my life. No one has ever cared about me like that. Chuck, I don't want to see him anymore. I wrapped my arms around her, pulled her tighter against me, and spoke softly into her warm ear. "I'm glad you realized that, and I'm glad you came." "My things are all still there," Sue said, and reached up to kiss me. "It's okay," I said before our lips connected. And after a long kiss, I said, "He's not going to ruin them, is he? And we can pick them up later." It was a delightful night of lovemaking. Sue was both affectionate and proactive. She healed all of me. In the morning, I brought coffee to bed and enjoyed looking at her sweet face in the morning, her serene smile, her gentle gaze on me. Before I left the house, I kissed her again. We pulled up to Chuck's house, arrived at the door of his apartment, and I pulled Sue to me and kissed her softly on the corner of her mouth. "I'll miss you, Sue," I said. "I'll always remember our year." Uh, uh... She could only open her mouth and looked at me helplessly. "I can wait in the car while you get the essentials. And tell me where to take you. Where are you going to live now that both your ex and I have kicked you out? Girlfriends? A hotel? What do you mean? I mean, No. I just wanted to try you when you were hoping for a rebound. I expected you to try harder, and my expectations were met."